All right, the EU Parliament has opened and resumed business as usual amid ongoing protests by the UK Brexit Party and demonstrations by Catalan nationalists over MEPs who are barred from these sessions. Now, they've got a lot to discuss already, but now tack on the potential of $4 billion worth of tariffs that the Trump administration is gearing to levy against the bloc over its subsidies to Airbus. Joining us to break it all down, former UK MP George Galloway. So, George, Nigel Farage's Brexit Party all turned their backs during the playing of the European anthem on Parliament's opening day, an open show of defiance, George. 29 MEPs were scolded later by the EU Parliament President Antonio Tajani. Talk a bit about this move and the controversy.
Well, relating to your last item, it's life, but not as we know it in the European Parliament. It's not something that happens every day, and on the face of it, it's not something of which I particularly approve. I don't agree with disrespecting national anthems as a whole, but the EU is not a nation, and it doesn't have a national anthem. Indeed, one of the complaints against it is that it has effectively moulded, without permission, 28 countries into one entity and given it an anthem, given it an army, given it a foreign policy, given it a president, and so on. And that's one of the reasons why people in actual nation states that do have national anthems that should be respected are angry with the European Union. I myself would have preferred a dignified walkout, not least because in the Reichstag in 1933, that's precisely what the Nazi delegates did, turning their back on the Speaker of the Reichstag. So it's redolent with very negative historical connotations. But if they had picked up their papers and quietly left the Europhiles to luxuriate in what they called their anthem, I think they would have been right to do so.
Interesting historical fact there, George. And what about the protests outside? What are your thoughts about the Catalan protesters?
Well, Catalonia is another example of the extent to which the European Union is the antithesis of democracy. I'm not myself a supporter of Catalan separatism, but their treatment by the central government in Madrid has been nothing short of shocking. 10 times more brutal than what we saw in Hong Kong yesterday, for example. And don't get me started on what's happening in France every weekend for the last 34 weekends. The EU, which likes to lecture other people about liberty and democracy. Donald Tusk was just lecturing President Putin yesterday about what he called liberal democracy. Well, it doesn't look very liberal on the streets of Barcelona or any city in France on a Saturday.
Fair enough. And last topic I'd like to discuss with you. Last night, the U.S. Trade Representative, Robert Lighthizer, he issued a detailed list of 89 products, including whiskey, coffees, meats, cheeses, and fruits even, that would be impacted by potential tariffs on the EU. Amounting to about $4 billion. This is all over a long-held argument from EU subsidies granted to Airbus. The World Trade Organization found that these subsidies were in violation of international trade rules, causing undue harm to America's Boeing. But George, on the heels of these latest Boeing jet crashes, is this fair?
Well, I'm not a drinker of alcohol, as you know, but I am Scottish, so I do have some skin in this game. If President Trump's going to make it more difficult for Scotch whiskey to be sold in the United States, that's something that I have to worry about. The other things are, it's all silly. Olives, cheese, whiskey, and so on. It ought to be beneath an America that supposedly believes in free trade in every particular to be getting down into this kind of detail. It's true that the European Union subsidizes Airbus, but it's also true that the US government subsidizes Boeing. through tax incentives and tax breaks in your case, and through direct subsidy in ours. Now, it's, you know, if Donald Trump can solve the problem of the demilitarized zone in Korea, he can solve a problem of French cheese and Scotch whiskey. It's about time that they stop this throwing of sanctions around like confetti. I don't know how you even keep track of it, Manila. I myself, I live and breathe this stuff. But I have completely lost track of the number of places and things that the United States is now imposing sanctions on.
George, I keep an online tally on my computer, so I refer to it weekly.
Okay.
As always, appreciate your insight on this. George Galloway, thank you so much.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.